Oh, hello everybody. It is gloomy outside and it's about to start storming, and so I'm using artificial light, which I can't stand, but we're gonna move past it. As you can tell by today's video title, I'm doing my April, I almost said TBR, my April reading wrap up. Or is it reading recap? Like, which one do you call it? Reading wrap up or reading recap? Anyways, that is what we're doing today, and I read 7 books. Now for me, that's good. I know for other, like especially like big booktubers and stuff, that's like crap. And they read like 15 or something. But let me know, like 7 to you, is that normal? A lot? Not much at all? Let me know. I'd love to just, let's bond over books. And the little terror, he is chewing on my cardigan or whatever you want to call this. But here's Franklin, say hi to the people. I just took him on a walk, hoping to like calm his tiny little butt down so that he could sleep while I'm filming. But so far that is not happening, but hopefully he'll fall asleep soon. Here are the books that I read. Some you're going to be seeing in next week's video. Last week's video I said that the next video was going to be a certain reading vlog, but then I realized, oh wait, it's the beginning of the month. I need to show my reading recap / wrap up. Boy, stop! He's still in the piranha puppy phase, and I can't wait till it's over. Ah! But anyways, so I had family visit for about a week and a half to 2 weeks. Ow! I think it was about 2 weeks. It was about a week and a half. I thought that was gonna put me way behind, which it did with some stuff, and like I'm not complaining. I was so happy. My parents came into town, and they live in South Carolina where I'm from, and right now I'm in Mississippi, so they came to visit, and it was great. But I didn't expect to get any reading done, but I actually got a lot of reading done. Well, a lot. I picked up 3 different books that I read, but they were all small books. And my mom was reading, and it was just like, it was a good time. Stop! I might have to put him in his playpen, honestly. Lay down. Good boy. Good boy. Like, dude, no. All right, so the first books, stop. No. All right, playpen. Guys, I will be right back. He's not being good. Okay, let's hope that settles him. All right, so the first few books you're going to see in next week's video, but that's fine. I mean, obviously, whatever. I'm gonna try to start from the top and just go in order. So the first book is The Handmaid. I almost said The Handmaid's Tale. The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This is, I want to say, my first Frida McFadden book. I loved it, okay? This was 5 stars, and I loved it. It was great. The plot twist, there was kind of like 2 plot twists that I expected there to be 1 because it's like a thriller book, but I didn't expect there to be 2, and I did not anticipate the plot twist. So I did really enjoy it, and I can't wait to pick up the next one, and I can't wait to see the movie when it comes out. Like, I'm so excited. But basically, if you don't know anything about this, first of all, what rock have you been living under? Secondly, briefly, I'll just tell you, it's about this girl who takes a job as a maid, a housemaid. She's broke, and she takes this job. It's a live-in housemaid position, meaning she lives in the home of the rich people that she's keeping house for, and she's like nannying, cooking, cleaning, all that kind of stuff. And basically, she starts seeing some stuff that other people don't notice. It's weird. She's kept in this attic, like that's where her bedroom is, and it seems really like sketchy, you know? It's like whatever is better than her car, which is where she was living, and blah, blah, blah. And she just starts dealing with this psycho person, just seems out to get her, and she doesn't know what to do, and it's crazy. But I don't know if that was a good job explaining it, but that's all you need to know going into it, and it's really, really good. So this was a 5-star read for me. I started off April strong. Loved it. Okay, the next book I read was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Now this was also a first for me of an author. First Ali Hazelwood book I've ever picked up, and that's because she primarily, like 99%, writes romance books, and I'm not a romance girly, but then this was her first debut into like romantasy, dark romance, you know, that kind of vibe. And I've seen so much about this and I want to pick it up. So again, if you have not heard about this, what rock have you been under? But I'll try my best to explain. It is a vampire and a werewolf have to form a marriage. It is a marriage, I guess you'd call it like a marriage of convenience trope. It's a marriage for an alliance between the werewolves and the vampires. I mean, I started my reading journey as like a young preteen with the Twilight series. So give me a werewolf and a vampire and I'm all in. That's me every day, all day. Yeah. So I was just excited. There was the dark romance aspect to it. So there was spice, which some people talk about how like, it was like, you know, there's nodding. And if you don't know what nodding is, it's something that wolves do. Look it up on your own time, but try not to search images. Okay. There is nodding in this, but by how much I've seen people on BookTok talk about the nodding, I full on expected it to be like a big thing. It's not that big a thing. So if that is what's scaring you away from this book, don't let it. It's really not a big deal. It's not in it that much, I promise. I have fallen in love with Ali Hazelwood's writing because of this book. It was funny and just so real. And like, I really never relate to FMCs in books just because I'm not like any of them. And I'm not saying I'm like her, but something about the way Ali Hazelwood writes, it's like she's in my head. Like if I were this person, that's how I would be thinking. And that's how I'd be talking to myself, like my inner monologue. Like I love it. And just like a little thing she says makes me laugh. I really enjoyed the romance in this book. Like the tension that is in the smallest scene that I wouldn't even consider it spice. Like under the clothes kind of thing. PG, but the way it made me feel and the way it felt spicy, the way she wrote just a simple scene. If you've read this, it's the scene in the plane or the jet or whatever before they go to that lady's house. That scene had me. And then there's a part in this book that just like broke me. It reminded me of something that's happened in my own life, just like between me and a guy. And nothing major, but it was just enough of a rejection that stung. And something in this book made me feel like I was right back there, and I hated it. I hated that feeling. But if a book can make me feel that way, even if it's a bad feeling, amazing. I love it because it's just, you made me feel that, which is impressive and amazing and just great. I will say my favorite part about this book was the relationship between our main character, Misery, that's her name, and a little girl named Anna, I believe her name was. The relationship between those two, the best thing about this book. Like it was so funny, so cute, heartwarming, just amazing. Like, okay, there's a little snippet. I don't remember the words exactly, but it's something along the lines of the little girl's like, hey, can I braid your hair? And she's like, and the way she talks to this little girl, I love. Like, she's very real with her. She doesn't like, oh, hi, sweetie, you know, like talk down to the kid. She's like, as if she's just a peer. So the little girl's like, hey, can I braid your hair? And she's like, fuck no. And then she goes, and like 10 minutes later, my hair is full of braids. Like, I love that. It's so freaking cute. I love this book. I gave it a 4.5 star. The reason it wasn't a 5 star is like, it took me a little bit to fully get into it. Like, even though I was enjoying the writing, just the story, I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, cool. But I mean, it's almost there, almost a 5 star, but I'm gonna say if I rated more specifically, I'd say like 4.75, but I don't do that. I only do in wholes and halves. So 4.5 stars. I really, really liked this. Next, There's Someone Inside Your House. Now, I picked this up from a girl on Facebook Marketplace. She was selling a bunch of books and I picked some. This I'd never heard of, but I saw the cover. I looked up that it was like, you know, there's someone inside your house. It sounds creepy AF, which I love. I love creepy books, creepy movies, stories, shows, all that stuff. And then it said it was a Netflix film. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to read it. If it was good enough to be turned into a Netflix film. And then I'm going to watch the Netflix film after I read this, which I did, and I have lots to say about it. First of all, I went into this thinking it was a thriller mystery. No, I wouldn't even really call it a mystery because it turns out like the figuring out who the bad guy is wasn't really a big part of the story. Like, that part wasn't much the mystery. Like, halfway through, you know who did it. It's not as much the mystery as it is just a horror book. Not a thriller book. I mean, it was a thriller, but I went in thinking thriller mystery. It's horror. It is a horror book. I'm not complaining. I just didn't expect that when I went into it. What made me realize this was a horror book was the fact that the murders, yes, there's murders, in this book were so gruesome and described very detailedly. Described in much detail. So it's not even just like the murder was described in great detail, which is what I would say like a horror book, but it's also the way this murderer murders people. I mean, bad. Like, without reading the book first, if I knew that these types of murders were going to be in the movie, I wouldn't watch it because I wouldn't want to see that. Like, it's gruesome, okay? But I loved it. I loved the book. There seemed to be a little bit of a subplot of romance, which, let me real quick recap this. About this girl who moved from Hawaii into, I want to say Nebraska, and a small town. So we've got the small town trope. Teeny tiny town. Like, there's one there's one like fast food chain restaurant in town, and it's Sonic, and that's the only one there is. I thought that was really cool, but this girl moves from Hawaii back to Nebraska to live with her grandmother, and there's a whole story there. And then she starts going to school, and then people start, you know, like teenagers start getting murdered off. Of course, she's trying to figure out what the connection is, and yeah, that part's kind of mystery, but like, you're not as invested on figuring out who is the murderer, what are the targets, that kind of stuff. It's more just what's gonna happen next, who's it gonna be, how's it gonna be, blah blah blah. But there's like a subplot romance in here, and I wasn't really feeling it. Like, I didn't love the romance. Like, between the two characters, I just didn't think they fit together really well. I mean, I still liked them, and it was cute, but to its core, I wasn't really rooting for them. But again, that wasn't a main point of this book. It was just kind of there. And it was good. But my rating, I forgot. Let me look it up real quick. I rated it 3.5 stars, which for some people that might mean it's a bad book. I don't think that means it's a bad book. It's not a bad book. I do recommend it. It just wasn't like amazing. I think this would be more of like, if you enjoy horror books, more of like a palate cleanser, quick read. Like, it didn't take me long to read this. And I liked it. It just wasn't like, oh my gosh, But let me tell you the bone I have to pick, okay? I watched the movie on Netflix. If you've read this book, do not watch the movie. Honestly, I'd say don't watch the movie anyways, because it's not great. But at the same time, I was looking at it through the lens of I read the book first. And I know the movies are never as good as the book, and I anticipated that. See, the thing with movies, they have to cut a lot down to fit it into 2 hours, give or take. I understand that. And I understand if you have to cut things out. I understand if you have to tweak things a little bit just to make, say the story's this long and you need it to be this long, so you have to change a couple things about it to make it work. I understand that. It's annoying, but I understand that. The problem with this movie made me so mad. So other than, yeah, they cut things out, blah, 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 they straight up changed things that didn't need to be changed, okay? Like, they changed certain characters from being boys to girls. That's not a big deal, but why? There's no need. They changed, like, there's a friend group of 3. That's the main friend group. And then one of the guys comes in and he kind of joins it. In the book, there's a friend group of like 6, which these 2 other people are in completely different friend groups. They are not friends with the main 4. But in the movie, they're all buddies. They're their own group. No. They cut down, I don't remember how many murders there was, but let's say there's 8 in the book. They cut down to like 4 in the movie or something like that, which again, fine, you pick and choose. But they changed the way the murders were. They were not gruesome at all. Say you're at like a 10 for the murder in the book. The murder they put in the movie was like a 2. Like, I get you might want to change it if you don't want it to be like a Saw kind of like gory, but you ain't gotta take it down that much. It was just, they completely changed it. And then the worst part of it all is they changed the reason for the murders. Like, there's a reason, there's a person who's murdering and the person has a reason behind it. They completely changed the reason. Like, I'm just gonna say this isn't a spoiler, but in the movie, they made it where the killer created masks that looked like his victims' faces, like with the 3D printer. And that's like the whole thing. He wears a mask of your face when he kills you. That's not in the book. That's not in the book at all, not even a little bit. And that really made me mad. And then the killer's reasoning for killing was off, and just, oh, it was so bad. And some of the parts in the book that made your heart like ache wasn't in the movie at all. So it was just garbage. If you haven't read or have no intention of reading the book, it's probably a fine movie. It's probably fine. But I swear, if you've read the book, unless you want to talk the whole time and bitch about how the movie doesn't match, don't. Just don't. Okay? Anyways, enough rambling. Let's move on. 4th book Immortal Dark. Okay, I was so excited to read this book. First of all, it has beautiful sprayed edges, which I just love a book with sprayed edges. And secondly, there's like vampires and it's dark. I thought dark romantasy. Honestly, I wouldn't even put the romance in front of romantasy. Like, it was more just dark fantasy. And that's a problem. When you go into a book expecting to find romance and you're excited about the romance, especially thinking it's going to be dark romance, and there's really not any romance, that sucks. So overall, I gave this 3 stars. Honestly, it's probably more like 2.5, but it wasn't bad. I think I'm trying to be a little more generous because I went into it thinking one thing and got something else. But like, I saw people rave about this book and I was so excited. There's dark academia. It takes place in a school setting, and there's vampires and magic and all this kind of stuff, which is great, but not really any romance. There's a little bit, maybe a touch of it, but and apparently there's more books coming of this. I think it's going to be a trilogy or something like that. So this is something I did love about the book. It's by a Black author and all the characters are Black. And that might sound like, why is it a big deal? It's not a big deal in the sense of like, why is that even a thing? Because every book and movie, everyone's white. And so this girl, she talked about how she grew up loving vampires and all that kind of stuff, but none of them were ever like her, you know, African American. So she made this book African American based and had all this African American history in it. And I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was really cool. Loved that about it. But I didn't get into the story. I did not care for our main character. I was hoping for some romance and some tension, because there was tension, but not much. And then it didn't lead anywhere. Maybe it does in the second book, third book. I'm honestly not going to continue it, but if the romance part you don't care about, that's fine. Go into this knowing there isn't any. Just think that there isn't any. And it was a good book. That's why I'm giving it 3 and not like 2 or less. I almost DNF'd it. Like, that's how much I was like, what? I was just severely disappointed, but I think it's because I went into this with high hopes, high expectations, and expecting something that just truly wasn't even there, and so it just didn't hit for me. But I don't think it's a bad book. Hold on, I didn't even tell you anything about this book. I just put it down, I haven't told you anything about it. So it takes place in a school setting. There's this place that like has all the vampires and stuff, and I think it's that the world, like, they don't know about the vampires, but this is where it says no soul can enter without an invitation. That's talking about this school area, like the district. And there's this girl, her sister was taken, and she's like, I know who did it because, you know, I found out who did it. It's one of those vampires, and I need to get in there and go find her. So basically the whole book, she's looking for her sister. She makes some friends, kind of. There's other murders, and there's just stuff she's learning and figuring out. And she's kind of stuck, forced proximity with this vampire that's like her family's vampire. Just read it, it'll make sense. But then you go from there, and she's uncovering all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. That's what that's about. Okay, the next book I read is There Are No Saints. It is part of the Sinner's Duet, and it's a short book, dark romance. I honestly first wanted it because of the cover, because I love snakes. But yeah, then I got the duet off of TikTok Shop, and I decided, okay, I'm going to read it. I don't know what kind of reading vlog I would incorporate it in, so I'm going to use this as one of the books I'm going to read when my family was in town. I loved this. Okay, 4-star read, not quite 5 stars, but I still really liked it. 4 stars. So we have a morally gray, well, I'd say like morally gray MMC, but honestly he's like morally black. Okay, like straight up a murderer and an incredible artist, filthy rich, very sure of himself. I don't know if it's psychopath or sociopath, I can't remember the difference, but he's one of those two where it's just like, he even says, I study emotions, I know how to do it, blah, blah, blah. And he just thinks the world of himself, like he is God in his eyes. And then there's this girl, she's an artist. She's broke, one of those struggling, starving artists kind of thing. And basically their paths cross and he becomes obsessed with her. We love that. So we're kind of navigating their relationship, his like murderousness, and then her trying to find safety from another murderer. It's really good. I cannot wait to pick up the second one. I really liked it, and it's crazy. I don't know what to tell you. I liked it. It is dark. Like, there are things, I want to say, I'm sure there's trigger warnings in here. There are no trigger warnings. But I do love, okay, so she has this opening, right? I'm going to read it to you. I love this. So this is Sophie Lark. She also wrote The Brutal Prince. It's the Brutal Birthright series with brutal parents and stuff like that. This one is for all my love larks who have struggled with mental health. Writing this book was intense therapy for me, dredging up some deep hurts from a long time ago. I just want to tell you that every part of you, the things that bring you pleasure and the things that bring you pain, the parts of yourself you're most proud of and the parts that seem like your own worst enemy, eating you alive from the inside. It all makes up your mind, and your mind is beautiful and perfect because it's the only one like it. You are irreplaceable. You are one of a kind. You are art. Love that. I struggle with mental illness, and just seeing stuff like that, love it. So anyways, I definitely recommend this book if you're into that kind of genre of dark romance. Next book I read was The Twin by Natasha Preston. This is my second Natasha Preston book. I really enjoyed her last one, which was The Fear. Really liked that book. This is just like I think I'd say YA thriller, palate cleanser kind of book. And I had a comment somewhere when I posted that this was my current read, and they said something like, I read a few Natasha Preston books and I hate her endings, so I don't read her books anymore. Her endings, I'm only on the second book of hers, but her endings are, they leave you hanging. And not in the sense that it's a cliffhanger, but just like you're not satisfied with the ending, but in a satisfying way, if that makes any sense. I'm just gonna say her books thus far, the two that I've read, don't have happy endings. But they're the kind of endings that you're like, aha, nuh-uh. She didn't, like, no. I gave this book 3.5 stars, not because it's bad. I really enjoyed it. Again, these are what I would consider like palate cleansers because they're not very long. They're fast-paced, very interesting. I would say just, there could have been a little more to it, but again, I consider it a palate cleanser book. It was so frustrating to read, and that doesn't mean the story's bad. That doesn't mean the writing's bad. Just for me, it annoyed me. So like, it's about these two girls, twins. Their parents are divorced and they're each living with a different parent, which is odd, except that these twins were never close. Never close. So the book starts off with mom dies, and so that twin moves back in with her dad and sister, that sister who lives with dad is our main character. The twin comes in and starts acting weird, doing weird things that only our main character notices. Everyone else either brushes it off as, well, it's grief, her mother just died, to saying, well, you're just seeing things or thinking things weirdly because your mom just died and you're grieving. Like, the twin's trying to make everyone think she's the crazy one. And it drove me nuts, which if that kind of thing doesn't like truly bother you, it was a great read. It's just, I was frustrated throughout the whole book. I mean, and it was great, but I was frustrated throughout the whole book, which I didn't love that feeling lasting that long. And that was just the theme of the book. So again, not bad writing, not a bad story, just not my personal favorite type because I was frustrated and like internally screaming the entire time, which does mean it's a good book. Like, it made me feel the way I'm sure she wanted you to feel. I just didn't love that. It is a good book. If that kind of thing is your vibe, I do recommend it. Fast-paced, palate cleanser. For the 50th time I've said that, but yeah. Okay, then the last book I picked up was The Patient by Jasper Dewitt. I've never heard of him. I've never heard of this book, but I picked this book up in a little bookstore when I was with my mom and we were shopping, and I saw it and I was like, okay, I love a good short book. It's nice to have a bunch of short book options as palate cleansers if you start to get into a reading slump or just to prevent reading slumps. I love it. Tiny book. And it's called The Patient, and I'm like, ooh, this seems kind of like thriller-esque or whatever, and I read about it. Sounded great. So basically, there is this patient who's in a mental institution and everyone is terrified of said patient, but our main character, the psychologist, he's kind of brand new, fresh out of school, so he's still young, inexperienced, and thinks the world of himself, and not in a bad way, just on like, oh, I'm gonna fix all the people. And that's his biggest fear is to not be able to help someone. And this all stems from problems he had with his mother when he was younger. And everyone's scared of this one patient, and he's like, I can take him. I need to figure this out. And he starts like digging into his past and reading all of his notes, because this patient has been a patient for 20 years. Has been a patient since he was 6 years old. So there's like a, what is wrong with him and why is everyone terrified of him? And he goes to figure that out. This was another 3.5-star read for me, which I'm annoyed with. That was my first impression. If I went into this book knowing a little bit more, my expectations would have been different, and it probably would have been a 4 to 4.5-star book. I went in thinking purely like, I love psychology, I love psychological thrillers, that kind of stuff. And they make it, like the way it's written, they make you feel like it's real, which at first I didn't know if it was real or not. But basically, you're seeing from the point of view of this doctor is writing out entries onto basically something like Reddit, and he's writing out his experience. So it makes it feel very like real. And I was just thinking, even if this isn't a real story, which it's not, but I was like, even if it's not a real story, it's just fun to think of it as like, okay, here's a patient, you're gonna figure out what's psychologically wrong with him. What is it? Because this guy is undiagnosable. Like, they failed to diagnose him because there's too many things wrong with him or something. And I was just so curious, what's wrong with him, obviously. What I did not know is that there is a supernatural element to this. So if I knew that going in, I would have had very different expectations for the book, and I think I would have loved it. I think with the correct expectations, this could be a 4.5-star read. But I didn't expect there to be that. So I kept thinking for logical reasonings behind stuff, and there wasn't any, because there's a supernatural element. And that's not a spoiler. I really think you need to know there's supernatural stuff going on, because otherwise when you get to that, you're gonna be like, oh, so like that's the answer. It's not like some major schizophrenia or like those big mental illness things. But other than that, it was really good. I did really enjoy it, and I do recommend it if you like psychological thrillers and you don't mind there being some extra stuff involved. But so these are the books that I read in April. Let me know if you've read any of these, or if any of these are on your TBR, or if they're on your TBR now because of this video. But I had a really good reading month. I'm very proud of how many I got through, and I am very happy with, other than this one, I'd say they were all good books. I just had one that I didn't enjoy, but no DNFs, which is excellent. I do not like DNFing books, and I hope to not have to do it too much. There we have it. Let me know what you read in April and your thoughts on these books that you have read. And yeah, stay tuned for next week's video where I look for a 5-star read. I try multiple books and I look for 5 stars. You may have already seen some of the books in here, maybe not, who knows? But anyways, I'm rambling now. Sorry. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.